Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this very interesting little guy. This is the Casio Tough Solar 5 alarm. I don't even know what to call it. The effective model name of it is the AQ-S810W-2A2VCF. Oh God, Casio, you're killing me. Give it a name. But anyways, I digress. First off, I want to thank my buddy Josh over at the Journeyman Junk blog. He actually kind of tipped me off on this when he said, Nick, I got one of these in. It's really nice, and so I want to check it out. So thanks for that, Josh. Next thing here, let's do some size comparison. Here it is up against the Casio F108, which is a very good budget sort of option. Here it is up against the Casio F91W, which is another budgety sort of thing. And then here it is against, I guess might as well show this off. This is the Breitling Aerospace. And so another analog digital sort of watch, slightly more expensive by a factor of, oh, good God, 100. More than that, actually, yikes. But anyways, there it is. And then let's actually do some measurements right quick, because this is a surprisingly large watch here. We'll do it first, we'll do it in millimeters here. So not including the button, and we are at 45.7 millimeters. The overall thickness of the watch, and I'm going to include... Yeah, I'll go to the thickest point here, is like 13.5 millimeters or so. At the thinner points, we're looking at something closer to 11. The lug-to-lug distance on this is gigantic. If you measure the actual lug-to-lug of the watch, it's 52 millimeters. But if you go to the area, like if I try and bend it down as far as I can, the overall lug-to-lug distance, including this band here, is looking close. Oh, come on. Don't fight me. I'm the human. I'm going to freaking win. 61 millimeters is about the thickness on the wrist overall here. We'll be coming back to that one later, but yeah, there you go. And so let's go ahead and jump into the good, the great, the bad, the ugly. This very interesting little watch right here. So on the good side, you know what? This is a nice watch in a lot of ways. One of the big things is that it's an analog digital watch. Now look, I like that very much because, well, honestly, it's a really nice approach because analog watches have the advantage of they're always readable. At pretty much any angle, you can read an analog watch. And that's really nice. And you also don't need to, it's not like a reading thing. You can just look down at a glance and see things coming. And that's a very nice thing. And coupled with these big hands as well as the big hour markers, it's pretty easy to read. So that's good. The other thing that I'll say is that it is loomed as a result. You can see here, if I charge this guy off camera with a flashlight, I'll show you off the loom here. You can see here that it is loomed at the 12, the 3, the 6, although it's not a 6, and the 9, as well as on the minute and hour hand, which mean that this is going to be legible all night long without actually turning on the light, even though there is a separate light down under there, which you can use, if the thing is on the right setting, to show you the time even late at night. So that's kind of a nice thing, though. I love an analog digital watch. I think there's a lot of benefit to it. It's nice to see that here. Next thing, this is a Casio Tough Solar movement. That means that it is both tough and solar. On the tough front, you can see that's a really stupid thing to say, but on the tough front, you can see here it's metal back, it's plastic case. It's a big plastic case here, and you can see that the crystal here is surrounded on both sides, particularly on this dimension here, which is sort of the arm swing dimension. It's got these big bumpers, which will basically prevent anything from hitting the crystal in most cases, as well as it's a quartz movement, which is going to make it a little bit tougher than the rest just anyways. And so it's also 100 meters water resist, as I think it says on the back here. Yeah, 10 bar water resist, which is nice. Big fan of that. And overall, you know what? It's a very tough movement. But it is also a good movement. It is a relatively featureful one because you can see here that I can, just by changing the search button here, now it's showing me the day and the second. Now it's showing me the date, 10/7, October 2nd, 7th, that is. And now it's showing me the complete time with the seconds digitally. And so you can see any one of those things late at night using the light functionality. You can also change it to show the battery life at the moment, to show world times. You can do a UTC or something like that. You can do an alarm, you can do a timer, you can do a stopwatch. You've got a whole bunch of different options here. And that's really neat. And in addition to that, it is a solar movement. You can see here, maybe, I hope, if I kind of put some light obliquely to this, maybe you'll be able to see the solar panel there underneath. It's kind of hard sometimes to show it off, but it's definitely a solar panel there underneath, and that's a nice thing. Because that means that if you're running low on batteries, all you got to do is stick this guy in the window, and case closed, problem solved. And so, to me, I like this movement a lot. There's a lot of love for me for this movement here. That's just great. And so that to me is what's good here, is that it is durable. It's got a very featureful movement that is solar powered and offers a whole bunch of things. I mean, it's got the same complement of features as your Breitling Aerospace here, just a little more pricey, a little less pricey, that is. It is a very durable watch. It has some lume on the hands, and it is a very legible analog digital sort of piece. On the great side, oh, and by the way, I meant to mention the date and the time. You saw that was actually day, and there's a month in there as well. That makes this a perpetual calendar watch, which is kind of nice too. But anyways, on the great side to me is the value. The price on this guy, which has as much functionality as your $4,500 Breitling Aerospace, and more functionality, being analog, digital, and otherwise, than your F108. This guy is coming in at $35. That's a great price. This is a whole bunch of watch for $35. This is an incredible piece for that kind of money. It's really hard to beat this kind of thing. I'm really impressed with the value on this guy. That is what blows me away about this watch, is $35 for all that. Why, yes, indeed, thank you. And that's the price that you would pay for like a really crappy fashion watch from a lot of other brands. Yes. So that to me is what's great. Is $35 for this? Abso-freaking-lutely. On the bad side, this is, there were some features missing from more expensive watches. The big one being radio control. But the thing is, if the current U.S. budget goes through, no watches are going to be radio controlled anymore, because the radio's going to shut down. So, hey, is what it is. One thing that bothers me a little bit is that there's no way to do both day and date. One would picture a world in which I could show, for instance, the day over here, so like this, and then the date over here. So it would show me, instead of Sunday and then the seconds, it would show me Sunday the 7th, which is the date. That's a really common complication, and honestly, it's much more useful for a lot of people than a seconds hand most of the time. And considering this is just a digital display, I don't know why that's not a thing. And speaking of which, when you're doing the date, you very often, you'll look down and try and see the date, but there's no spacing between this end of the date and the start of the seconds. And so, although it's very clear that it's not the 74th, on days where it very easily could be that, for instance, 33-1 there, it's a little bit tricky. I'd kind of like to see a little more spacing, but like I said, that's not a huge deal here. One thing I will argue about here is the lume situation. So there is lume on this guy, and it is all night long sort of lume. Again, I showed you that off earlier, but you can see here there is some lume. But the problem is you've got these huge indices over here, all of which could have been very well lumed and would have made this guy a lume monster, but they chose not to. That almost just feels a little bit like a cheap out sort of situation. I don't know why Casio didn't just bother to lume the whole damn thing. I'm sure it saved them $1 or something, but good God, man, make it 36 and lume it right. That seems kind of weird to me. Then finally, on the bad side, there is just no jewelry factor with this guy at all. This is a watch that is 100% purely functionality. That's not a problem, and in fact, that's going to be ideal for a lot of people, but this is not a watch that's going to be looked at as anything other than, well, that's going to tell him the time, or her for that matter. And that's something that you're going to want to keep in mind. That's the one thing that this watch is kind of lacking, and is that sense of just like quality. It's entirely plastic, maybe with the exception of these screws here at the bottom there. So there's that. That's the bad, is that there is next to no jewelry factor. There is no lume on the indices, even when there are big white patches everywhere. It's a little hard to distinguish the seconds from the date some days. There is no option for a day-date function, and it's missing some of the higher-end features like a radio control, but again, come on, it's $35. I'm just nitpicking here. On the ugly front, there is one big ugly issue on that guy, and that is the size of this. This is a gigantic watch. Now, it's not the case that the watch itself is so huge. I mean, if we measure the case of it itself, we're coming in at 44 or so. 45, okay, that's big, certainly. But the thing that really bugs me about this guy, if I put this on my wrist, and I've got relatively small wrists, 6.75, but you can see here that this guy just sticks out like crazy. Like, it is very, very, very tall, and I'm really actively kind of pinching it to get it down towards my wrist, but most of the time, this guy just feels substantially longer on on this dimension than my wrist, and that's because you can see here they've taken some steps to make sure that the band doesn't actually ever compress all the way down, which makes this wear a lot bigger than it actually needed to. This could have been done with a much smaller lug-to-lug distance. 52 is huge anyways, but then to add that band on there is kind of insult to injury, and a 64 millimeter lug width, or a lug-to-lug, is huge. That's not something that's great. By the way, it looks like you absolutely can swap out the band here, and that would help you some, but remember, you're still going to have from this area all the way down to this area, so it's never going to wear small. And so as a result, I feel like, look, big watches are in vogue. That's the thing. Everybody wants a freaking guacamole plate on their wrist right now. I don't get it. It won't age well, but whatever. The thing is, though, this guy, even for being the size it is, wears exceptionally large, and it's just not going to work well for people with smaller wrists. It's a watch that I think is really, really excellent, but it's a watch that it drove me nuts wearing it, because it's just like huge. It's like a poorly fitting cuff on my wrist. So, to me, that's what's ugly here, is that this watch sure is big, but it's built much bigger than it needs to be, and as a result, it becomes not an option for people with smaller wrists. So that's the ugly. Final conclusion, look, I think this is a really great watch, and especially at this price point. $35 is a really nice price point. Solar charging at that price, yes. Many features, easy legibility, durability, all it just, again, at that price point is incredible. And the fact that it's basically matching in many ways the functionality of your $4,500 Breitling Aerospace over here for $35. Yeah, that's a thing. That's really, really nice. It's missing some higher-end features. It's got a couple of frustrating UI decisions. They missed a loom opportunity, but honestly, my only real beef with this watch is that size thing. It'll wear really well for somebody with gigantic freaking wrists, although, again, if your wrists are too huge, this decision here is also going to make it wear a little bit funky on you here. But the thing is, that's the issue here. It's just bigger than it feels like it needs to be. If this guy were designed such that it would be wearable for more people, if they had just kind of really tried to tone the lugs back a little bit, or even make that part of the band removable so you could put it on a smaller band, this would absolutely 100% be a gem categorically. It would be the first watch I go to recommend people to looking for something budget friendly. As it stands, though, it's kind of a near miss. It's a watch that just kind of snatched a gem from the jaws of success, and that's just not really great. A really excellent choice for a lot of people. If you've got big wrists, then consider this watch. But I think I struggle when they got so close and then fell down. So that's my final conclusion. Is this is a really great watch. It is a near miss on gem. It offers incredible value for the price. But if you are small of wrist, alas, the tough solar here is just going to be plain tough. And so I can't recommend it universally. There you go. Hope this has been interesting to you, and have yourselves just an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.